Hello, 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 and welcome to number 11 in Project Pixar. This time we are taking on the closing chapter of the only trilogy in Pixar, well, at least at this point, and that is Toy Story 3. Noah, how you doing?
Great. I love this film. So let's get talking about it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about this. Give a little spoiler for kind of heading up in Project Pixar. For me, this was the last of the great era of Pixar. After this, they would do some films that I think were definitely lesser in quality. So for me, this is kind of the bookend, which is very appropriate because the film has a very bookend finale feeling to it. But going to give that little heads up. So, as always, we start with our favorite characters. Noah, I'll go ahead and take this one first if you don't mind. And
No, you go ahead.
as he's been my favorite character in all the Toy Stories, minus one we'll talk about later, and that's Woody. Woody is still just as great as ever here, and a lot of the other characters really get a chance to shine as well. It can be difficult to pick because all of them are so good. I think Buzz really shines in this film too, which I absolutely love. Some of the new characters we get are really great. I hadn't seen this film in a while, and rewatching it, I forgot, honestly, just how much Ken brings to the picture, and especially for Barbie's character. Like, he's just so fun. But Woody is everything, and Andy says it best when he ultimately decides to give Woody away at the end, where he says, you know, Woody is brave and strong and kind like a cowboy should be, he says, but the best thing about Woody, he never gives up on you. And Woody shows that 100% in this film when everyone else is like, hey, you know, we're just going to live at this daycare. No, we are Andy's toys. We go back to Andy. He does not give up on Andy. He does not give up on his team. It's just beautiful. Excellent character. Woody just does. He just shows why he is the leader and why he is the one that everyone looks up to and why he is Andy's favorite toy, because he never gives up on you. Noah, who's your favorite character?
I mean, Woody is, of course he's always fantastic. Actually, my favorite character in this film is what I consider the best villain in the Toy Story series, and that's Lotso Huggin' Bear. I think when I first saw it, I really bought into everything that he was saying. He's such a jovial, like, good old Southern gentleman type. Like, when he's like introducing them around the room and like saying, you know, oh, that, you know, this is a great thing because, you know, you'll never, when the kids leave, you'll get new kids and it'll get passed down and you'll always be played with. And you think, oh, this is heaven, this is utopia. And then the dark side starts to pull through and you realize what they're doing is like this, basically a prison break film. And he's the warden, you know, throughout, and it makes so much sense. And then just learning about his backstory as well, you could see in his where he was wronged in his eyes, but you know, based on what happened, that he took it too far. I like that they don't really try to redeem him. They try to redeem a lot of their villains, but he does things that are irredeemable. So I really like Lotso.
Funny you say that, because I had a conversation with my friend Alex about Lotso specifically, and he was like, oh, I wish they'd tried to redeem him, but kind of like you, I actually thought it was kind of interesting they didn't. Watching it this time, I picked up on something that I'd never picked up before on Lotso, and it's during his backstory when they get forgotten by Daisy, I believe his child's name was. The clown, Chuckles, actually has a line where he says, but Lotso wouldn't give up. And Lotso's like, we got to get back to them. And what I realize is he is the other side of Woody. It is two loyal people, but then you have one of them who's loyal no matter what and believes in you, and you have the other one that becomes that bitter person. And so I'd never really realized that before, that they have the same characteristic in them, but then one of them, when they got forgotten, became super bitter, where the other one's like, no, I'm going to prove that I'm still, you know. So I really like, he's a really good villain. Everything you said about him was really good. That was great. So what is your least favorite moment in this film?
You know, it's hard for me to really say it's a least favorite moment, but I feel like Woody's action is not as interesting being at Bonnie's and everything than where the toys at the daycare and what they're going through, and that whole situation to me is the more interesting part of the plot. It's a good breather away from it, but I just don't find it as interesting as what's going on there. So, um, which is why probably I wouldn't say Woody was my favorite character, because he's not in most of the action that happens at the daycare. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and that, and the fact that they once again use the trope of let's reset Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah. Although I think it's at its most interesting here, at least.
Yeah, they use it again to good effect, and they always do. But it's just funny that they keep going back to that well.
Right. That's fair. So for me, I have two things. One, I similar to Stinky Pete, I feel like Lotso gets off kind of easy, and I get the idea is like, oh, he's going to be strapped to the front of that truck, you know, with, I don't know, but part of me like almost wanted to see something worse happen to him, and maybe that's like bad or vindictive, but I don't know. Part of me just like, oh, that was it, like. I don't know. So, but that's a minor part. The one part that has always bothered me, and it's small, but I don't know. I remember even the first time I saw that in theaters, I was like, what? And there's this Fisher-Price telephone that Woody talks to, which is a really endearing toy. I remember I used to have one of those phones too, so like, it was really cool.
Yeah.
But he basically, he helps Woody out, and he's like, nah, man, I'm a veteran. They'll never break me. And I kid you not, like 5 minutes later, they find out from the phone, they're like, sorry, cowboy, they broke me. I was like, well, what happened? Yours is like supposed to be hardened veteran. They'll never break me. Oh yeah, they never tried before. They totally.
He was
broke
all
me.
he was just all talk. He was the telephone.
I
He
guess,
was all talk.
yeah, he was all talk, but very funny. But yeah, just how quickly, like if he'd said that much earlier in the film, I think I would have been more okay with it. But the fact that like nearly a few minutes after he says it, boom, they break it. I was like, well, that didn't take long. So yeah, that's always kind of me.
What were some of the animation details that you noticed in this one?
So it's kind of a minor thing, but I really appreciate how well they animate the different toys moving. And like in particular, I always think of Woody doing the backflips on the train at the beginning, and just, again, you can tell he's made of cloth, whereas when Buzz is dancing in his Spanish mode later, you can tell he's plastic. Like, there's just something they really nail about the detail of the animation, like, oh yeah, this is a toy that's made of plastic, so he's going to sound this way when he moves, and his movements are moved, whereas, again, Woody is cloth, so his movements are a little looser, a little free-flowing. It's such a minor detail that's always stood out to me. I have to call out, like, just the animation of Mr. Tortilla Head is, I'll never forget the first time I saw that. It's hilarious. It's so creative, too. And obviously the cucumber just a little bit, but that's just kind of there as a vehicle to get him back to his... But man, when that tortilla comes out and he... Bloop, bloop, and the way they animate of him looking sideways and his body drooping and like the way he's got a waddle and yeah, just fantastic stuff.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, I love that moment, and I lost it in the theaters when it happened. It was so unexpected. I would say, I mean, it all looks so good, but the one scene in the animation that sticks out to me the most is when the toddlers first come in to play with the toys, and it's like a horror scene, like Buzz getting licked and like them getting like paint poured all over them and getting like pounded and stuff and thrown across. And I really like. There's a shot from the ground level with like the one of those pop and play like kind of things, and Bullseye's like getting rolled up inside of it and then gets spit at. Like, that was fantastic, and it really pulls you in. Like, oh my gosh, like this is horrible for them. Like, that part is great, and also the opening is fantastic too, because it's kind of the realization of that imagination sphere that Andy had lived in all those years, and you really get to see it come to life finally, which is a really fun payoff.
Yeah. What's the first time? Do you have what are your first time memories of this film?
Oh man, yeah. I was. This one hit me like a Mack truck, because I had so much nostalgia for Toy Story as is, and I by the time that the lights were coming up, like I was just sitting there in my seat, like wiping tears away. I was just sobbing, not because I was sad or anything like that, but just because it was so emotional for me, because I felt like Andy felt leaving these characters and that had meant so much to me over the years, and also thinking like it is that idea of it's time to grow up. It's time to put your toys away. And like, it's sad to leave your childhood behind. That's a part of you that you'll never get back once you get past it. And yeah, that man, I left there and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, they ended that perfectly. Like, it was the perfect end to the Toy Story overall. So yeah.
Yeah. Again, in the theater with my girlfriend and my best bud, and the feeling I had afterwards was just complete satisfaction. And I had the same thought every time they released a sequel to Toy Story. Why are they doing another one? The first one was so good. Why are they doing a third one? 2 was so good. And after this, I was just like, that was amazing. Like, that was like you said, it was the perfect ending. It hit every note it needed to, and I'll never, just sitting in the theater, laughing at those jokes and being surprised where it went.
And were you, sorry to interrupt, but were you like on the edge of your seat when they were heading towards the incinerator? We were like, oh my god,
it's just like this monumental stuff. I'm like getting goosebumps just thinking about. I just remember like being in just like shock, just watching it. And when it
was so dark. Like I was like, I can't believe that they're like close. They might kill off these characters. Is this the end? Like, this can't be the end. But it was just so dead serious, like the way they played that moment.
Yep.
Sorry, you were saying though.
It was an amazing first time, and I'll never forget seeing it. And just that feeling of complete satisfaction. It's like, that was great. That was great. Like, that did everything it needed to do. I wanted it. It got everything I wanted from it.
Mm-hmm. Anything from the music stand out for you in this one?
Yes. So, 2 things. One is the incinerator, because the score there, Randy Newman's score, bum bum, like, it's so intense, bum bum, and it builds bum, and that scene blew pretty much everyone in the theater. We could all feel it, and it's that moment of acceptance when they're like, what do we do, because they can't climb out of it, and Buzz puts his hand out, and they're like, well, and like, he gives Jesse when he just like almost like half cocks his eyebrow, and the way they all hold each other. And so they all just reach it. And Woody, leader to the last, is the last one to close his eyes. They all look away, and Woody, like, he's still watching, just thinking of that last, and he can't get out. And again, just that boom, boom. Like, it's so intense. The music there is, that whole scene is just, my girlfriend, we watched it recently, she was like, that's the best scene out of everything in Pixar. That moment is the most emotional. Like, it's hard to argue with that. Like, it's so intense. It's crazy. And again, it's this moment of acceptance that you wouldn't see from like an adult big budget film, and they put it in this family, like, I guess kids movie, if you want to call it that. Incredible. And then the other moment that always sticks out to me that I have to is the opening where Andy is playing with them, and You've Got a Friend in Me is playing, and it gets me every time, and it's, and as the years go by, our friendship will never die, and it fades out. Our friendship will never die. And of course it faded, because their friendship did die, because then Andy grew up. Like, it's so poignant and so appropriate. And again, I'll never forget the first time I saw that, and because you're expecting the song to play on, and it just cuts out. Like, beautiful. What about you?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely had that moment. That's what stand out to me, because that was the moment I was like, they are gonna do some things in this movie that are going to really I don't know, be controversial, but it's definitely going darker than it's ever been before. And yeah, definitely that moment and the incinerator, like you said, like, I'm totally right there with you on those. And there's a sense of levity and a sense of peace at the end of the film, with the way that it rises out, and is the way that it leaves you. So
okay, so now I gotta ask you, what is your favorite dialogue or line or joke from this movie?
I mean, my favorite is the last line of the film.
I knew you'd pick that.
So long, partner. Yeah, that's...
In 3 words, they wrap up like everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not technically the last line, because you can hear some other things going on, but like,
if you count the Buzz, have you met? But yeah, we count it as the last line.
Yeah, no, that one, I do love the callback in the moment of the claw
Yeah.
with where they're all saved by the claw. Um, uh, I Lotso has two really good lines that stick out to me. It's like when they're at the dumpster, it's like, we're all just trash waiting to be thrown away. That's all a toy is, is just trash, Stop being such a big baby, even though it's a little bit cliche that uses his name, but it's, you know. And then also, man, I was really thinking that they were going to redeem Lotso and that he was going to save them before they hit the incinerator. But when he looks
Where's
at him,
your
he's like,
kid now,
"Where's your kid
Sheriff?
now, Sheriff?" I was like, "You." Oh man, like that's what a good villain does,
Yeah.
though.
That's a bitch right
Um,
there.
yeah. And then as far as like humor, I love the Spanish Buzz stuff is really really funny.
Yes, it is.
It's hilarious.
I wish I knew
Especially
Spanish because when he says the cowboy, whatever it is, like the
yeah,
way he says it, I don't know, it just gets me.
yeah, and his dancing and stuff like that is hilarious when that part is hilarious. Also Buzz. I love um when he's like checking on them in their cells or whatever, and he's like, "Quiet down, musical hog," while
That
Ham's
was the
like
line I was gonna
playing
pick.
the harmonica.
Quiet down, musical hog. I use it every time. It's just such a funny phrase, musical hog. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it is not like one particular line, but overall, Michael Keaton's performance as Ken is really good and really funny. Um, yeah, that's what stands out to me for that.
Great choice. Yeah, my joke is easily quiet down, musical hog. Lost it the first time I heard it. I still love that line. And since you kind of nailed all the really good ones, the only one I'll kind of add is it's not even one line, but just the decision. Give a medal to whoever decided at the end of the film Andy would take out each toy and say what is special about each of them.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
that's so beautiful. And there's a moment in that too after he's handling all of them, and this line really stood out to me too because we were doing these Project Pixars, and you were saying how Buzz owns the fact that he's a cool toy, and I really get that from this film of all the great things he can do, and Andy says that this is Buzz Lightyear, he's the coolest toy ever, and again, it's not technically a line of dialogue, but it's an action beat, and it's right at the end when he realizes Woody's in the box. She says, "My cowboy." And he says, "Woody, what's she?" And she reaches for him, and without even thinking, he
Just instinctively pulls them away.
and like looks at her like, "Are you crazy? This is my favorite. Like, I'm not gonna give you this." Like that instinct of just like, "You can't have this." Like, of course you can't have this. This is Woody.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, just that whole. And again, just I love that he takes out each one. This is why this toy is important. This is why this toy, man, so good. It's so good. So that's mine.
anything that you would change?
I mean, I think this film's basically perfect. Yeah, I got the little beef with the Fisher Price guy. Seeing it again, what?
Just that's the one, like
Yeah.
that damn phone.
Again, had he done it earlier, I don't think it would. But it was the fact they'll never break me. Yeah, they broke me. Like, well, that wasn't pretty hard. I don't think so, man. Like, this film's pretty flawless to me. So, the only thing I would change is that I would lock up whoever made Toy Story 4, and they should. No, it should have ended with this film. So that's what I would have changed. What about you?
Mm-hmm. Nope, I wouldn't change a thing. I thought it was a perfect ending. Hits all the emotional beats. It's got humor, great humor. It introduces some new characters in a really fun and good way. It just keeps moving, and it's fantastic.
Let's
And
jump right
and
into those
you know what?
thoughts then. Yeah.
I mean, well, I would just say like it is so hard in film to have the momentum in the payoff that this series does. It is not at all expected that a third film in a series ends up being what I love Toy Story 1 for mostly for the nostalgia, but as a film and as the story that it is being told, Toy Story 3 is the best of the trilogy.
Yeah. 100%. I couldn't agree more. And, you know, 4 notwithstanding, which came out many, many years later for quite a long time, this was the ending. And if you have a favorite TV show, you know, the world is full of TV shows or movies that are often beloved, but that really flub their endings. And a bad ending can really ruin a series or a franchise, because the ending is the last thing you're left with as an audience member. So it really makes sense why that's the feeling you take away, because that's the last
landing on ending.
And likewise, the reverse is true. I've seen many a TV show or movie that honestly wasn't great, but had such a good ending that it made me love it. Because again, it's what you take away from it. It's that last feeling you have. And so for Toy Story 3 to have the climax in the incinerator, which is one of the best Pixar scenes ever, if not the best, to have the farewell with the toys, to even Woody being willing to go with them, to Andy giving, like, I love that the camera zooms in on Andy's hands and Bonnie's as he passes it to her, that like passing of the torch. And like you said, that so long partner is just so perfect, where he's not only saying goodbye to Andy, they're saying goodbye to us as the audience members.
Yes, yeah.
It's a perfect film. It's the best Toy Story film, easily in the top 5, and it just bums me out so much that Toy Story 4, in my opinion, ruins so much of the goodwill created by this film, because like every moment, like the pacing is it's just relentless. There's a new idea, new pacing. The toys, when they first get to the daycare, the all these different creative toys, it's funny. It's just, it's like, yeah, I think it's like Pixar at their best.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
absolutely. Couldn't say anything else.
Agreed. And like I said, this to me, it also stands out. It really stands out seeing the films after it, because to me, this really was a bookend film. It was like, okay, they kind of start to dip in quality after this. So next
of them.
Yeah. Next up, there's still some really great ones out there. But next up, we'll be visiting Cars 2. And that is, I think, the 12th installment in Pixar's illustrious franchise. So join us for that. Let us know what you think of Toy Story 3. What's your favorite of the Toy Stories? We'll see you next time. Bye.